everybody, and I want to welcome everyone to this episode of the Booze Geek. My name is Chuck. I am your host, and before I get started, if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. If you like the episode, hit that like button too. Give us a big thumbs up, and feel free to leave a comment down below. But on this fourth and final Allagash Brewing portfolio tasting, well, this is it. We've come to the end. And if you missed any of the first three, please go back and watch those. But I'm still going to give a quick recap because, well, that's what we do on these portfolio tastings. So, if you missed them, on that first episode, we tasted and reviewed the Allagash Triple. On that second episode, we tasted and reviewed the Allagash Curio. On that third penultimate episode, we tasted and reviewed the Allagash Barrel and Bean. So this fourth and final episode, well, we're going to do an offshoot of these three. This is their Allagash Nocturna. So this beer is different, but it does have one thing in common with these three. So where these beers, these were, Belgian style golden ales. We had a Belgian style triple, a bourbon barrel aged triple, and we had a bourbon barrel aged coffee triple golden ale. Well, this is different. This is a bourbon barrel aged stout. So right off the bat, different type of beer. However, what this beer does have in common with these three is it is brewed, it does use the same yeast strain as these three beers. So that's what it has in common, but it is a different beer because first and foremost, in this bourbon barrel aged stout, the ABV on this beer, this clocks in at 9.5% ABV, so it's slightly higher than the triple, which clocked in at 9, but it's lower than these two because these clocked in. The Curio was 10.2 and the Barrel and Bean was 10, so it's definitely lower than those, but it also uses two different types of hops than these three. This uses Northern Brewer hops and Cascade. So without further ado, this is it. I'm going to crack the top on this episode, on this beer. I'm going to crack the top on this beer for this final episode, and let's get the review started. Boom, boom. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. This one actually had some smoke coming off it. Very interesting. None of these had smoke. The Nocturna had some smoke. So let's give this one a little pour. Ooh. Well, I know it's a stout. It's pouring, but it's pouring a little thin there. But I'm not even going to do a color comparison because obviously it's a stout and it's different. But it does have nice color. Although, like I said, it did pour a little thin. It poured like a cola. But let's give this a swirl and give this a nose. But really quickly, about a half finger veil of slightly off-white carbonation. But let's give this a nose. Here we go. Well, okay. Well, we are getting some cocoa powder, slight vanilla, slight coffee, and there is a bourbon-esque boozy aroma coming off as well. And I will say that boozy-esque bourbon aroma, it's definitely stronger than the Curio and the Barrel and Bean. Yes, you can. It's definitely more potent. It's more prominent than it was on these two. But let's give this another swirl and let's give this a little sippy sip. And here we go. Wrap up this portfolio tasting. Prost. Well, that's interesting. I did mention that it poured a little bit lighter. This is a light-bodied beer. Where the Barrel and Bean was the heaviest mouthfeel, heaviest body weight of these three, where this was a full-bodied beer, these were medium-bodied. This is the lightest of the three. This is a light-bodied beer. 100% light-bodied beer. But what am I getting flavor-wise? Well, we are getting some bitter coffee. We are getting some bitter chocolate. There is some slight burnt toast, some very slight vanilla, some very slight vanilla. I just want to say vanilla. No, vanilla. However, I will say that bourbon-esque, that boozy aftertaste, once again, it was higher than these three on the nose. It's also more prominent than these three on the palate. It's definitely lingering. It's almost like an afterthought, but it's definitely there, and it's definitely in your face. You're tasting that. Now, how would I rate this in comparison? Well, let me give this one more sip, and let's think about it. I left you in suspense on the first three. I'm going to leave you in suspense on the fourth. Here we go. Now this one, while I do think this is a good beer, I don't think it's as polished as these three. I know it's a bourbon barrel-aged stout as opposed to the golden ale, but you know, this one, I'm only going to give this one a 6.5. I do like it, but I do think the balance is off on the nose. I really think the balance is off on the palate, though. That boozy bourbon-esque taste is kind of just, it's kind of pushing everything else aside. I mean, it's definitely, once it hits you, easily it overtakes the coffee notes, it overtakes the chocolate notes, overtakes that burnt toast, that vanilla. I mean, it really does. It's really the most potent out of these four beers. Yeah, I mean, I do like this beer, and I do like the fact that it is a lighter drinking bourbon barrel-aged stout. It really is a light drinking beer, as opposed to some of the other bourbon barrel-aged stouts on the market. But I just don't think it's as polished. I wish that booziness was taken down a couple notches, and I wish that coffee and that chocolate and even the vanilla were brought up a little bit just to balance it out. I think it'd give it more depth and a little bit more character, and I think it would make it just a slightly, it'd make it just overall just a, you know, I think a more fulfilling drinking beer. I'll just say that. But even though on that note, I'm going to take one more sip. And I'm going to thank everyone for hanging in for these 4 episodes on this Allagash portfolio tasting. Yeah, I hope you had fun. This was a nice thing to do. This was cool. Every once in a while, this is fun. You know, taste some beers from one brewery and see how they compare. But on that token, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to thank everyone for tuning in. And as always, you can follow me at the websites, which are www.pubshaveapintin.com, or at the blog, which is www.pubshaveapintin.blogspot.com. And with that being said, we will see you on the next episode. So as always, raise a pint. Cheers. Prost. Hit that subscribe button and enjoy!